So yes, it's finally here, the Japan vlog you've all been waiting for. It's taken quite a bit of time to put this one together, but it is now finally ready for viewing on the channel. So look guys, I really hope you enjoy the footage that I filmed while I was in Japan. If you like what you see, please be sure to like, share and subscribe, and also maybe hype up the video as well, because that's a new feature on YouTube also. Anyway, without any other further ado, this is my Japan trip of 2025. So then the following day, we ended up going to Shibuya in Tokyo. Now, this is that really famous place that has like all the big buildings and the big electric signs. And it's also got the huge Shibuya crossing, the big scramble crossing. And having that chance to walk across Shibuya scramble crossing was really cool. But I just loved all the anime billboards, the Starbucks right there. It was amazing. And then we came up to the Shibuya 109 tower. So that was really cool, actually being there like in the game Tokyo Mirage Sessions. And speaking of Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Nintendo games, we had to come to the Tokyo Nintendo store. Admittedly, it was very similar to the Nintendo Live experience I went to last year down in Sydney, but being in the official Tokyo store, it was amazing. They had Super Mario statue, they had Link from The Legend of Zelda, they had, I think, Animal Crossing with Isabelle and Tom Nook, they had the Inklings from Splatoon, absolutely awesome statues. All of the plushies they had, especially for Animal Crossing, they had Audie the Wolf, which I've actually got from Nintendo Live. They had this Sasha plushie. Absolutely love Sasha. And also a little bit of Kirby merchandise. Kirby riding his Warp Star. And there's some Nintendo memorabilia here and some other apparel. Got some Nintendo, I think, water bottles and shopping bags and some t-shirts. So that's pretty cool. But my god, you should have seen the giant wall of amiibo. Nearly every character from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I also thought I would get a bit of a scanned panorama of the whole Nintendo store. Really funny thing, one of the girls behind the counter, when I panned across, she kind of ducked down really quickly. I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna say. Now, would I recommend coming to Nintendo Store Tokyo? Yes, of course, if you are a Nintendo fan. Then I highly recommend you check out Nintendo Tokyo. Now, just across from the Nintendo Store was actually one of the Pokemon Center stores. Walking upon the entry, they had this giant Mewtwo in a container. Mewtwo is one of my favorite Pokemons of all time. And out the front, along with Mewtwo, were the Paldean starters from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Lots of people in the Pokemon store, no surprise there, lots of merchandise. Plushies galore when it comes to Pokemon. They had the starters from all the different generations, Torchic, Chikorita, Totodile, etc. Some other Pokemon like Mew. And of course, how could we forget about the evolutions? Glaceon is probably my favorite evolution, Sylveon being a close second, so they just happen to be next to each other, which was cool. Now, just one final shot here of the Pokemon Center before we move on to the next location. So after going to both of those stores on the same day, we also were just walking the streets within Shibuya off to the Dog Heart Cafe. Well, I don't know if it was really a cafe, but they had dogs there you could pat. So here we are in Dog Heart in Shibuya / Harajuku, and as soon as I walked into the dog pen, I've had about 2 to 3 dogs just constantly lick my legs. This is totally worth it. So the next day at Tokyo, we went to Harajuku, and sadly I didn't get much footage here. I really wanted to explore Harajuku, but we were kind of like running on a tight schedule to go somewhere else in the afternoon. So this is the best I could get, apologies. What was really cool is there were some street buskers. I mean, no different than having them here back in Australia. But it was really cool seeing Japanese performers and seeing what skills they had to display. Check out this dude and his crystal ball. Amazing. And there was also a dude who was just like rapping. He was pretty cool. And if you're interested in his social media link, PONNPY BEATBOX, I will link him in the description below, along with any other performers or content creators here. Now, the reason why we had to leave Harajuku a little bit early was because we came to the Team Labs Borderless experience. It's like this big internal playground where there's like different lights and interactions that you can come across. Now, this was inside the main room of Team Labs Borderless. It actually gave me a bit of vertigo and motion sickness. This huge wraparound screen projector projection. As you can see, the motions with the fish, it was just constantly rotating and spinning. I actually thought I was going to fall over and throw up, not going to lie. Oh, and I've seen these places before. They got them in America and other places as well. You can do your own drawings. They get scanned into the system and they appear up on the projections. Yeah, I remember there was one video that went viral, and it was somebody literally just wrote the word poop on a fish, and it was a poop fish, and then they got taken down. So poop fish. Now we're getting to the meaty stuff. One of the rooms was this really cool, really tall type of room, really high ceiling, and they had all these dangling strip lights and beads coming down. You weren't allowed to walk through the beads. That was a big no-no. The sparkling raindrops were really beautiful though. That was quite tranquil. And then we came across this other room. There was a lot of people in there. It was quite large inside. It was very, very big and spacious. And there was this hill that people just like sitting on with the waterfall coming down. I guess that was pretty neat for what it was. Oh, but I'll tell you what, one of my favorite rooms was this lily pad room. The music and the ambience, everything was really, really tranquil and ethereal. And not gonna lie, this lily pad room sort of reminded me of a location in Xenoblade, something like your Satol Marsh. But I've also got to show you this other room we found, which were these like bubbly balls on rails. It was like a plasma ball, you know, when you touch them, and then like the plasma and electricity zaps your finger. It was kind of like that, except you weren't allowed to touch the balls. You could only observe them, and because of the mirrors everywhere, it felt bigger than what it actually was. And I just thought it was really cute. Just these little balls going along some tracks. So one of the nights we were staying in Tokyo, we came to this really awesome traditional Japanese temple. It was so beautiful. I loved walking through all of these temple grounds. They had like a praying section. It was really, really spiritual, really cultural. I just couldn't believe I was in Japan. I never thought it was going to happen, and it was definitely somewhere worth going. Now, my partner and I were only in Okinawa for one full day, so 2 nights there. Yes, the time went by so quickly, but we went for a day trip up to Motobu, which has the Choraomi Aquarium. But as you can see, yes, we successfully arrived at the Ocean Expo Park where the aquarium is. The view from Ocean Expo Park was really stunning. There was this island out in the distance that had a mountain on it, and I just thought, wow, that's pretty lined up perfectly, eh? So as we were descending the stairs, you get to like a big flat area where there was a fountain. We could hear this like really bubbly aquatic music, and we're like, what is that? Where is that noise coming from? So we kept walking down the stairs while still enjoying the view, and the further we went down that staircase, the music got louder and louder, and I thought there's going to be some type of event happening nearby. Like, this music isn't just playing from some general speakers. There's a very specific pinpoint location this music is coming from. And lo and behold, it was actually a dolphin show that was happening. But the dolphins were really well trained. They were really cheeky, really playful, as typical dolphins like you would expect. I've seen this kind of stuff before, you know, living in Australia, a very aquatic type of country, and living by the coastline myself. But hey, seeing it in Japan, Japanese dolphins by Japanese people, it was cool. But luckily, yes, I did manage to get some tricks on camera here. The dolphins were a little bit tricky to keep track of when I was zooming in. So we finally arrived at the Choraomi Aquarium, and I'm so glad the weather cleared up a bit more. On the outside, the aquarium was pretty majestic to look at. I really liked the architecture of the building, and one side of the escalators was not working, so anybody who wanted to come on the way down, you had to walk down, so I guess it wasn't too bad. At least the escalators going up were working, and I thought I'd get a view from behind while going up the escalators of that really, really cool island in the distance. So once we finally got inside the aquarium, naturally, as you could expect, yes, there were plenty of fish to look at. I don't really know the fish names or breeds. I'm really terrible with things like that. But they were very pretty. They were very nice to look at. They had one of those fish with the giant forehead. I don't know what you call that, but they got one of those dudes. I just really love sea life. I just think it's quite fascinating that there's a whole world we don't actually know, and it's literally a giant percentage of the planet. Don't you think that's insane? As you can see here, we got some jellyfish. Make sure you don't touch the tentacles, alright? I really like the manta rays. They were cool to see because I don't think I've seen manta rays before. We've got stingrays in Australia. We've always got stingrays on display at aquariums down here. There were some sharks. Sharks are cool. Now the main attraction of the Chorami Aquarium. If you've seen it in anime, if you've seen it on the internet, that is the aquarium we went to. That huge fish tank with the giant glass screen. I'm just surprised that glass holds. It's gigantic. Could you imagine being there and the water just breaks through the glass and just drowns everyone? I'm sorry, that was really dark. I shouldn't have said that. But of course, everybody was in eager anticipation when the big boy came around. That whale shark is gigantic. I don't know how big it was. It must have been at least 10 meters long. And I did everything in my power to get as much footage as I could of this bad boy. He was majestic. Oh, yes, and one of my partner's favorites, sea turtles. She loves sea turtles so much. These guys are actually outside. I don't think you had to pay to see the sea turtles. They were literally their own thing. We had to exit the venue to even find. The map kept making out that they were inside the paid venue, but they weren't. You could literally just walk down the street and just come across some turtles. So that was pretty cool. And lastly, we returned back to the hotel, heading back to the capital of Naha. I'm so sorry, but I do not have any footage of arriving to Okinawa or leaving Okinawa, or even inside the capital of Naha itself. Time was of the essence, so yeah, we had to look at maps and all that. So now we finally land in Osaka after our little detour down to Okinawa. This was a pretty big city, not as big as Tokyo, but pretty big regardless. So the very first day that we spent in Osaka, we went to the Osaka Castle, I think it was. Now this was a very hot and humid day. Despite it being cloudy, I could feel my skin burning. Osaka was a weird blend of being hot and cold at the same time. But Osaka Castle was very busy, a lot of school students, and of course, tourists galore. As you can see, the Osaka Castle is right there. Sadly, I didn't get any footage inside the castle because it was super cramped, and well, I didn't want to destroy my experience of being in the castle itself. But outside the castle grounds, there was a really cool busker / street performer. I think his handle is HANDPAN. This dude is awesome. We actually spoke to him after his live performance, and he's been to Australia and he's been to the Gold Coast. As you can see, he's got this big didgeridoo inspired instrument, and he was saying that he's got Indigenous friends in Australia who actually taught him how to play the didgeridoo. You've just got to listen to him. And before we left the Osaka Castle grounds, I decided to get some more external footage of some of the shrines and temples surrounding the castle. You can see a torii gate in this one shot here, and just general statues and lovely Japanese architecture. It was such a nice place to be. Highly recommend if you do come to Osaka. And that pretty much wraps up our day at Osaka Castle. Well, actually I lied. We did do something else later that day. We went to the Osaka Aquarium. I cannot remember if that's the specific name of the aquarium we went to, but it's like the big aquarium you go to in Osaka. Oh, and they had this advertisement for Legoland outside the aquarium, but I think Legoland is in Nagoya, which is another city that's not Osaka. Pretty cool. There was this giant Ferris wheel at the aquarium grounds. Reminds me of the Ferris wheel back in Brisbane, actually. So with the aquarium building itself, I don't know if it was just me, but it did kind of look like a giant container ship. It was pretty big. The place is massive from the outside. Now, early on within the aquarium were these sea otter guys, these weasel dudes. They were so cute. They were really hard to get on camera. I was anxiously waiting for them to zip on by. God, these little buggers were so annoying to get on camera. Why couldn't you little bastards stay still? Well, I mean, we did manage to get to see the otters getting fed, so that was pretty cool. Now here's some footage of some miscellaneous animals, which I'm not too familiar about this one. It was like an aardvark / anteater. I really don't know what this thing is. Yeah, I didn't really pay attention, my bad. And here we have the penguin enclosure. These dudes are not only cute, but they are hilarious and a little bit gross. Yeah, they kind of just crap and poop everywhere. Oh, now this is another animal that was really difficult to get on camera with the dolphins. I don't know what type of species / breed of dolphins these ones are. They're speeding around, zooming around, zipping around. That's what they do best. And I think I did see a few of them do tricks or jumping out of the water. Now, the Osaka Aquarium did have its own giant fish tank like the Chiraumi Aquarium did, and they both got whale sharks. Now, one thing I will give this aquarium is that you could see from all angles and all sides. You could see everything from so many different angles, and as you're walking through, you could see so much different marine life, including some different things like squids and octopi. So if you are a fan of the Splatoon games, I'm sure you'll love this footage of these squids. Now, another one-up that this aquarium had over the one in Chiraumi were seals. Now, these guys are very cheeky. Bro, can you not do this on camera? For freaking crying out loud, man. Come on. There is a time and place for everything, and this is not that time and place. Jeez, you guys are absolute horn dogs. Freaking hell. Now, one of the rooms within the aquarium space was this cute animal space. My partner absolutely adored this place. Of course, she loves cute things. I mean, don't we all? And you've even got Dory from Finding Nemo. Look at her go. There's this like shrimp dude just like chilling out and walking around, doing his thing. Hello, Mr. Shrimp. Oh, but holy hell, look at this big bad boy. I think this is in the deep sea section or semi-deep sea. I think it was to pick a fight with me. But we had an absolutely fun time at the aquarium. What a jam-packed day, back to back, starting with Osaka Castle and then coming to the Osaka Aquarium. But of course, that was just one of many large days in all of Japan. Now the next day, finally, here we are. We went to Universal Studios Osaka. Straight up, we had to go up to Nintendo World. I love the approach of the Super Nintendo World entry. You could see the Mushroom Kingdom inspiration. And then when going through the entry, it's going through the warp pipe. It's got the light effects on the ceiling, and it's also got the warping sound effect. And a little bit further up from the warp pipe is Princess Peach's castle. You can see the sundial symbol on the ground like in Super Mario 64, and it's also got the Bob-omb Land painting, which is really cool, like you could jump through it in the game. But of course, what a majestic feeling. Coming out of the entry/exit way, you could see the Mushroom Kingdom in all its glory. This is Super Nintendo World. I was in absolute awe and amazement that this place even existed. They had absolutely everything when it came to Super Mario. They had the coins, piranha plants, they had all of the question mark blocks, people everywhere, Bowser's castle in the distance. And they also had people dressed up as the Mario characters themselves. And well, yeah, of course, I love Princess Peach. She is beautiful, man. Now here's a great advantage point of the lower deck of the theme park. Once again, it was a very hot and humid day at Universal in Osaka, and also just panning up here to see the whole skyline of Super Nintendo World. Goombas, Koopa shells, Koopas themselves, the flagpole, they've got it all, baby. Now yes, I was very tempted to get a photo with one of the mascots, whether it was Peach, Mario, Luigi or Toad, but unfortunately I just thought I'd get the footage instead. I could not be bothered lining up. Now coming around the bend here at the bottom, we've got Donkey Kong Country. This is one of the new areas of Super Nintendo World, but the really sad and sucky thing was that the Donkey Kong roller coaster ride was out of commission on the day, and it was actually the one ride I was most excited to try, but unfortunately that did not happen. But regardless of that downfall, I love this bongo drum rhythm beat thing, and you can see peeking through, and he's just about to come out, is Rambi from Donkey Kong Country. Look at him go. Oh, and I was so happy to see somebody dressed up in the Donkey Kong costume. It is the old Donkey Kong Rare design, not the updated design from Donkey Kong Bonanza, but yes, this is still classic DK that we know and love. Coming back out into the main area of Super Nintendo World, my favorite character of all time, Toad, was here. Now yes, I was so tempted to get a photo with Toad, and I wondered who was in the costume. Was it an adult crouching down, or was it a kid? Who knows? I love Toad. Look at him. He's just bouncing up and down all over the place. So excited to be there on the day. So my partner and I split off from our friends, and we decided to ride the Yoshi Coaster attraction. Not gonna lie, it was a little bit disappointing. It was more of a scenic ride rather than anything thrilling. But I guess the most positive thing about riding this Yoshi ride was more so the opportunity to get up close and personal with some of the animatronics. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to see them up close. And of course, just the general view of the park itself from another advantage point, seeing other people riding the Yoshi ride itself, and also of course all of the other Yoshi statues and references. I think I liked the indoor part the most, where it was very Yoshi Island heavy and centric, so that was nice to be out of the sunlight and into somewhere actually cool and shady. But that pretty much sums up our time at Super Nintendo World. However, one of the other lands within Universal we visited was Hogwarts from the Harry Potter series. Upon entry of Hogwarts, you could see the Harry Potter architecture just like out of the movies, entering Hogsmeade's village itself. And believe it or not, we just happened to come here right at the end of the day as the sun was setting and it was dusk. This was honestly the most ideal time of day to go to Hogwarts in Universal Japan. And the one and only Hogwarts Express. Oh my god, that was so cool seeing that in person. As you can probably tell, I am a little bit of a fan of the Harry Potter films at least. So being within Hogwarts / Hogsmeade Village was utterly surreal, and I just loved the vibes and aesthetics of this place. So as you can see, coming up around the back of Hogsmeade Village was Hogwarts Castle itself. Now of course this was not to scale, it was shrunken down for obvious reasons, but from a certain distance it did look pretty real and believable. And that pretty much wraps up our day at Universal Studios Japan. So it was actually a fairly quick trip from Osaka to Kyoto, but one of the main places we went to was the Golden Temple. It was on a weekday, so there were Japanese school students there. There was a lot of tourists, no surprise. And despite the weather being overcast, it was really, really hot and humid. I was sweating badly that day. But anyway, I did my best to get some footage of the Golden Temple, got some footage from afar, got some footage close up. It was obviously the main attraction in this Japanese park, but I actually really enjoyed just the natural scenery as well. It was really cool just knowing I was in a different country and nowhere near Australia. So the following day, when we were staying in Kyoto, we decided to go to Nara Park and see the deer. And I couldn't believe the stories were true about the deers actually bowing at you. Whether you had food or not, they would come up to you, make eye contact, actually be pretty social with humans, which is really cool. I mean, yeah, some of them are quite bloated, they get overfed. it's a little bit crazy, to be honest. And I wouldn't say the deer were completely friendly. Some of them were really, really selfish and demanding to be fed. Even if you didn't have food, they just expected that you would have food. But apart from their selfish nature at times, they are very, very beautiful creatures, and I love them a lot. It did annoy me though that they always ran away when I went to go pat them. They're just like, nope, you ain't touching me. And that was pretty much all the footage I got for Kyoto. We didn't do too much else, just went to a couple of food places. I just wished I got more footage, but I didn't. I'm so sorry guys, please forgive me. Okay, so we were finally on our way to the next destination after Kyoto, and that was Mount Fuji. But as you can see here, I've got some gorgeous scenic panoramic footage of the countryside and these villages through the mountains. I could not see Mount Fuji from this angle, unfortunately, but of course you will be seeing the glorious mountaintop in, well, all its glory. So in the meantime, please enjoy this panoramic footage I've got of the Japanese countryside, and let us continue to Mount Fuji itself. So yes, now here it is, the one and only Mount Fuji itself in all its amazing glory. We were very lucky to see it as it was a very, very cloudy day, but luckily those clouds did depart from the skies around Mount Fuji, and you can even see the snow-capped mountaintop. Snow is not something I see a lot in Australia, so, well, seeing it physically, even from a distance, meant a lot and was truly, truly special. So after coming back down from the ropeway, that's when my friends and I decided to do a massive lap around Lake Kawaguchiko. This is one of the 5 lakes that surround Mount Fuji's base. Yes, you can see the ropeways up there. It doesn't look very high from down here, but it's pretty damn high. And like I mentioned, here's an angle of Mount Fuji from the base alongside Kawaguchiko Lake. There's also just the general hillsides and other mountains. So it was really, really cool and nice to see some other scenery and countryside apart from Mount Fuji itself. And here we are walking along this giant roadway bridge. We had a pretty good advantage point walking along this bridge, seeing Mount Fuji enshrouded by the sky and clouds. So once we got off the bridge, we did come across a couple of interesting statues. There was a Kappa statue, which reminds me of the anime Sarazanmai, and also this human statue of a couple of naked people. It had a very Grecian design behind it. And one of the final places we went to in Fuji Yoshida was what I thought was the famous Lawson store. Unfortunately, it was the wrong place to be. And also lastly, here's some very wobbly footage of walking through the drizzly rain of Mount Fuji and Fuji Yoshida. This was a vibe. This was an aesthetic, and I really want to go back. Please take me back. I just want to go back to Japan so badly. So that wraps up my trip in Japan this year of 2025. Let me know what you think, because I had an absolute blast. It was an amazing, life-changing trip, and of course I just really want to go back to Japan because the food, the cuisine, the people, the nature, everything about Japan was just absolutely splendid. I'd love to have you on board the channel, so please subscribe, hit the bell, also hype the video, like the video if you wish to do so, and please let me know your thoughts in the comments because I'd love to hear what you think as well. And also feel free to share stories if you've ever been to Japan or whatever you'd like to talk about in regards to the vlog. So, well, as always guys, UpperNimbus is signing off.